Folks, before we start this episode, if you could do one thing, would you please hit that subscribe button? It really helps us out. Kick those tires and start that fake fire. It's time to camp. Today we welcome perhaps the most dangerous guest we've ever had, or probably ever will. He's broken many bones and a few hearts along the way. He's as handsome as he is terrifying. We are welcoming today UFC heavyweight champion, MMA legend, actor, and inventor, Bas Rutten, to the fire. Bas, welcome to the campfire.
Wow, that was a beautiful introduction.
Oh man, I was like, you know, I was like, am I nervous giving that? I was like, I can't be nervous around Bas, but actually I can. In prepping for this interview, Bas, I was actually thinking you would be the worst person to play either Two Truths and a Lie or a Never Have I Ever. Because I was thinking, we met at a party and you're like, let's see, Two Truths and a Lie. I don't like broccoli. I've broken a man's shin bone in a hold. And I've been thrown in a Swedish prison after a brawl. And I don't know how he feels about broccoli, but two of those things are very true. You've been thrown in a Swedish prison before, right?
Yes, I was.
What is that? I'm just curious. Sweden's known for, you know, a lot of hospitality. Seems really nice country. How's Swedish prison?
Swedish prison is not nice.
No?
No. I got in a fight with some bouncers. They wanted to take me out. I was too busy, too excited, apparently. That's what they said. But when I walked in, they already said, the first thing they said, hey, boss, you got to tone it down tonight. And I go, that's a weird thing to say. You know, why wouldn't I? And I'm just dancing around. And then they said I was bothering a customer. The customer was actually buying a drink for me at that moment. And they said, no, you have to move away. They put me into this back doors, 2 doors. Fire escape, big marble stairs going down, and then, you know, he told me I had to go, and I said, sure, no problem, I would love to leave. I said, can you tell my buddy, he's from Holland, he's a bald guy, so he knows I'm outside. He says, you don't understand, and he starts pushing me. I said, dude, there's no reason to touch me, you know, when I don't want any trouble. And then he says, you won't listen. I said, hey, dude, let's stop this. You know, I'm leaving, don't worry about it. And the guy behind him jumped over him, and he stabbed a finger in my eye. I go, guys, I don't want any trouble. And then he hit my other eye. And that's when I knocked him out, and then all hell broke loose because then 3 other bouncers came, was fighting 5 guys. You know, and it's hard because you're dropping them, but they wake up while you're fighting the other guy, so you're constantly busy, you know. It was a scary moment, you know, especially in the end, because I thought, this is going to go completely wrong, because that guy was going after my eyes the whole time during that fight. I don't know what his obsession with eyes were, but that was it.
He didn't know who he was...
He knew who I was. That's why when they called me by my name, it should have been an alarm bell for me. I should have said right there, you know what, let's not go in here. Because I felt weird. Why would he say that? Hey, boss, you could tone down tonight. Why wouldn't I?
So he had an axe to grind, obviously.
Listen, they called them the Mafia Bouncers. The Yugoslavian mob. They're very famous. The whole Sweden, Stockholm people loved me. I mean, finally a guy stepped up. They put people in prisons, in prison for 4 years. Famous people for things they didn't do. One of those guys actually went on a TV show in Sweden. He was crying because he put a famous actress, a woman, for 4 years in jail for something she didn't do. And he was ordered by his boss to do that. And that was the same thing with me. It was just bad people. You know, there was no escaping from me. I was just very fortunate that they, you know, I had some people who talked to them, and so they pulled their charges back. Because otherwise I would have been there 6 to 9 months. Because I knocked out an officer. I didn't know that one of these guys was a police officer. Well, if he's attacking me, well, you're going to get the same treatment, right? It's not like I'm gonna wait. So yeah, it was very scary, but thankfully we got out of it.
Wow. Well, next time Bas invites you for a night out on the town, be very, very careful. And it looks like we will not be able to get IKEA to sponsor this episode.
I don't think so either. But you have to say, like, I was a very wanted bouncer, and the reason they wanted me as a bouncer is because I never fought. From the 10 situations, there maybe one time, because I'm very good with people. So, you know, with me, normally, it's very hard to pick a fight with me, even after stabbing my eye.
I was going to say, most people, I feel like after you gouge me in one eye, I'm ready to fight. You said, whoa, I'm going to take one other, and so that's it. 2 eye gouges.
2 eye gouges.
And that was your line.
Because then the next thing is, it's going to be the groin. It's going to, you see, they're going to step it up from there. You know, this is not going to stop. So, yeah,
wow.
don't worry. It will be safe with me.
Well, man, that's what a way.
What a way to start an interview.
I feel so helpless around you, boss. So we are camping, obviously, and we like to talk about camping. I'm curious. So growing up in the Netherlands, do you camp in the Netherlands? Is that a thing? Do you go get tents and hang out in the wilderness?
Yeah, we did. We did with the family, but not that much. That's a special group of people who really enjoys doing that. Now I really enjoy doing that. Go somewhere nice and relax, away from everything.
What's so growing up there? Where you're from in the Netherlands? Where's the best nature? Were you out in forests a lot? Were there lakes? What was it like?
Yeah, that's where I come from the south of Holland. This is close to the Belgian border. That's where the more farmers are. A lot of woods. I used to live like 6 miles away from the Belgian border, maybe 20 miles or 50 miles away from the German border. So, it's easy. They come over and, that's why you speak Flemish, you speak German, because they're in the country the whole time. We also have German TV. And the greatest thing about Holland is that you will see every movie in their own language with Dutch subtitles. So it's very easy to learn. That's why a lot of people just speak speak English in Holland, because they're watching English movies and they see the translation below right away.
Right. Now, I may be wrong about this, but the Netherlands is known, you have one of the tallest populations, right?
Yeah, we have, right? Tallest people in the world. And then if you think, we have also the best Thai boxers. The heavyweight Thai boxers all come from Holland. Well,
really?
The best strikers are from Holland. Somehow, these guys just figured out how to just destroy everybody. I mean, even the Thais. I mean, you have Ramon Dekkers, who was a guy who passed away, unfortunately, was a friend of mine, who was probably pound for pound the best striker ever. He was the first guy in history who went to Thailand, just destroyed people there, and then he became Fighter of the Year, which always, for centuries, went to a Thai guy. He broke that mold because they couldn't go around him. He was that good.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. So, you got into fighting. You were bullied a lot as a kid. You were a weak kid. You had asthma. You had all sorts of ailments. Do you think, is that what actually got you? Do you think that is part of the reason you were so successful as a fighter? Is that experience and what you had to overcome as a child?
100%. I was the leper in school. I had a horrible skin disease, so that's what they called me, the leper.
And this was bad. This was not like a few patches. You had to wear like sleeves.
This is making a fist and pus will come out and everything will break. This thick. That's really disgusting. So needless to say, you don't have a lot of friends because they think you're contagious, right? Everybody wants to stay away from you. But for me, that was okay because I spent my time in the forest. I was always in the trees. I had a forest very close to my home. I could go from treetop to treetop. There were only like 4 or 5 spots in the entire forest where I had to climb down because the trees would be too far away. And bullies would come after me, would just climb a tree. And then would let him climb the tree until they were almost there. And I started swinging to the other one. And they didn't have the cojones to do it.
So you were Tarzan.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, that's where my athletic abilities come from. I mean, I spent 3-4 hours a day in the forest, all day. I have birds, like trained birds. That how do you call them? A jackdaw, you call them here. It's like a crow, kind of, but a smaller version.
Yeah.
He came to pick me up from school. I mean, he knew what room I was in and everything. He would always sit on my shoulder. Was everywhere with me.
You had a pet crow, essentially.
A pet crow. This is a true story. I just told that story 3 days ago to somebody. So one day, I had him as a little baby, right? You feed him and you become the parent, and then they believe you're the parent, and they always come back. And there's unbelievable smart birds. And teach him how to fly. All the time he hits the ground, and suddenly he is the first flight. He goes up and he's happy, weep, 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 and he comes and he starts talking to you, weep, 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 in your face. It's really cool to see. They really want to share their stories. And one day he didn't come back, and I've had the feelings he found a partner. It broke me because I wanted to have there, but he wasn't there. And a week later, I heard him on my roof, and I opened my window and had a little balcony in the front. And he sits on the roof of our back neighbors. And I go, hey, Gerrit, come here. That was my sound always. And he immediately flies over and he sits on the balcony. And his partner stayed there. And he goes, he's talking to me for like a minute. He's just talking. And then he flies away. I swear to God, I get goosebumps now. They sit on the roof. They turn their back. They both look back at me. And they fly off. You put this in a movie, people are not going to believe it. This is 100% the truth. It really happened. So that's how close I was with that animal.
Wow, so you had a cool relationship with nature, and you come from a family of gymnasts, right? And there's
track and field, a lot of track and field, but my other from my side family also gymnasts. Yeah.
So you had some, even despite the asthma and stuff, there's a history of athletes there too. So you had some natural abilities.
Oh, I did really well, and I was going to be the next Bruce Jenner. That was the Dutch Bruce Jenner. That's what I wanted to be, the 1976 gold medalist decathlon. And later when I started thinking about it, you see, I already was busy there with kind of mixed martial arts. You know, put the martial arts together, but put all the things together in decathlon. And I was going really hard. I had a really high jump. I did everything well, except, of course, the running because of my asthma. That was harder, the 1,500 meters.
Totally. And obviously you've given a lot of interviews, and you have a wonderful story of getting into this. But take us back to fighting just in general. So when you really got into fighting, what was it like compared to how it is now? Because right now I feel like UFC is so well known, and the average person can name, UFC champions, etc. But when you started, it was not as renowned as it is now, correct?
Yeah, no, it was September '93 was my first fight in Japan. You have to understand, November '93 was the UFC's first show. So we were fighting before the UFC started in this small organization called Pancrase. Later on, that small organization, I think they produced like 11 UFC champions, because the level was just really high, and had certain rules that would give you more ring time, so you get more comfortable every time, For instance, if I would get you in a submission, normally the fight's over. But with those rules, if they were laying close to a rope and they could touch the rope with their hands or their feet, you had to let them go. That would count the same as an 8 count, so to say. So at the end of the fight, if there's not a finish, then they say, oh, he grabbed the rope one time, the other one didn't, and then you lose. But sometimes I had fights, the fight what I told you, if I broke my hand, I submitted him 5 times. So 5 times was the maximum amount in 30 minutes that you can submit somebody, and then the fight is over. But because I broke my hand right away with the first punch, I just took him down and I started submitting him. I put him in a submission, boom. But he touched the rope, back on the feet. Now you can also say, now you need to be strategical, because you say, hey, if I don't want him to grab the rope, well, I'm going to drag him to the center of the ring first, and then I go for a submission. Then again, if you lose the submission and he gets in a better position, now you are far away. See, so the strategy becomes completely different. And because one fight sometimes makes you fight 5 times, because after you get a submission and he touches the rope, you go back up, well, you restart on your feet again. Yeah. So you get more ring time, and all these guys had that. Like, I have 15 submission victories, but if you look, I pulled off 51 submissions, because there were, you see, so I had pretty much any submission possible. And that was the greatest thing from that organization. And it was a wild thing. I mean, I told you, I was, at the first time, I thought there was weight classes. There was no weigh-in the day before the fight, which I thought it was a weird thing. But, hey, the Japanese are known for being honest, so since I'm fighting a Japanese guy. But then I found out on the day of the fight he was 38 pounds heavier. Then I found out that we fought only for 1 round. I'm all happy to go 30 minutes, no break. And I go, holy motor, what am I doing here, I mean, I didn't know the rules. I didn't know I fight a 38-pound heavier guy. In Thai boxing, 6 pounds is a different weight class, and then in a 30-minute fight. So,
I forgot. I meant to ask you this before we got too far down the road, because what transformed you from this kind of, this kid who was struggling so much physically, and then you fell in love with Taekwondo, and you got to see Bruce Lee,
yep.
Who helped inspire you to go on. And your parents let you do it for a little bit, but then you had an altercation that made you stop Taekwondo for a little bit. What happened there?
So yeah, I saw Bruce Lee movie, realized, wait a minute, if I become like Bruce Lee, the bullying's going to stop. And so I wanted to start martial arts. Took 2 years to convince my parents to do it. Finally, they allowed me. I was taken under the wing about this tough guy who was dating my neighbor girl. And I was the only kid training with the adults, 14 years old. And in months I started dropping adults there with back cakes to the body and head cakes. And they start talking about me in the dressing room. And I overheard them talking about me. Man, that kid's good. Did you see him? And he dropped check and everybody was laughing, So, I got more confident, and then, I was riding my bicycle on the street, and there he came. Shaki was his name. He was the biggest bully in my school. 6 of his buddies around him on bicycles.
And had he picked on you a long time?
Oh, all the time. He and his brother. Brother was bad. He was already in jail for robbery, his brother, when he was 17. So, I mean, it was a bad family. And, hey, leper, whatever. It was always, watch out, your ears don't fall off, your hands don't fall off. They would always shout something like that. And this time I shouted something back. And I heard him laugh, and I remember turning back, and I see them start chasing me, and I said, this is it. I put my bike on a stand, and I said, I'm going to face it now. And they surrounded me with their bikes, And then Shaki came and he started challenging me to hit him. So I hit him. And then I found out that, wait a minute, he was out. One shot. Nose was flat on his face, though. So that was a problem. He had to go to the hospital. And that meant that the police was called. And then they showed up at my mom, dad's doorstep. So they took me off immediately. I have to say, my mom and dad, I never told them that I was bullied. My mother had an enormous amount of work with me. Like bandages wrapping around my arms and hands. Years, every night, and I would rip it off from the itching, and she had to redo it at night again. The whole family would send in old bed sheets, which she would rip up into bandages, you know. So I didn't want to be another boarder, because if I would have told them, for sure they would have kept me on it.
How do you? So this is tough, and I wrestle this, but how do you now, with your kids and talking with other kids? Bullying is so awful, and being a kid is so tough, and you had to be a kid with all these ailments, but. On one hand, I feel like I would tell my son, hey, you know, if you need to protect yourself, and if a guy's gonna bully you, like, they respect strength, right? On the other hand, I don't want to physically harm people unnecessarily. How do you think through bullies right now? What would you tell, you know, kids who are in that situation and being bullied like that? Yeah,
go do martial arts, you know. But a lot of kids, maybe they don't have the skill for it. That can happen, right. And then they're gonna need to tell an adult. You have to go to an adult that you trust. It's so important. But the language they speak, listen, I've been bullied till I was 14 years old on a daily basis, from 6 till I was 14, all day long. And one punch stopped it. So people are going to tell me, you can't tell the kids not to punch. I said, I'm not going to say it, then don't invite me. I said, because when I knocked that guy out, it stopped. 95%. Yeah, some poor bastard who didn't hear about the story, who would come in, he would get knocked out, of course. And now I became the bully protector too. You know, I've seen a whole bunch of schools because I was I was the kid who didn't get attention because of his disease. So what do? You become the class clown. You're going to be. So I got kicked off a lot of schools because I was super hyper. Yeah. My mother had me pick me up one time, and one woman was pointing at me. She says, "Can you imagine that's your son?" And my mother goes, "Well, he's mine." You know, so that was a different level.
I mean, I guess this is weird, but how did it feel to end it with that bully? Like, was that because I mean, you've been bullied so much. I mean, was it a?
It was everything. It was when I was just telling the story, and every time I do get emotional. I feel I'm getting emotional. It was to change my life immediately. That was it. Suddenly everybody was afraid.
And so martial arts, did that start to transform even your physique and your body from kind of the scrawny little kid with eczema and asthma? Did martial arts, do you credit that as kind of what kind of changed you and built you up and got you tough to where you are now?
Yeah, martial arts, because needless to say, after I left my mom and dad's house, I immediately started doing karate, a form of karate. And I started going to a weight gym because everybody at the time was lifting weights, you know, and I needed to do that as well. But my karate instructor was a really good instructor, and he was also doing weights. So we became friends really fast because, you know, I just picked up super fast everything. So he enjoyed that. And then he was a very funny guy as well. So we had a really good time. And that's why we started doing weights as well. So.
And then when did you figure out that you're like, okay, not only I'm good at this, but I'm good enough to compete at the highest levels? When did you figure that out?
I never really had that. As a Thai boxer in Holland, I was just very powerful and strong, and that's why I was just knocking people out. But I wasn't like I was fighting in the gym. This is the biggest test for everybody. It doesn't matter what profession it is. If you're an actor and you're practicing in front of the mirror and you're calm and relaxed, it is so easy. Now put 3 cameras in your face and there's no room for mistakes, because otherwise one take, you can mess up with $30,000. You see, boom, all that pressure. Now it becomes a whole different thing. If people say that public speaking is the #1 fear there is, you can only imagine what happens with fighting, you know? So you have to overcome that. And for me, it took a while. In Thai boxing, people go, oh, man, you were this great striker from Holland. I said, you know, Peter Ertz, Ramon Dekkers, all these guys from Holland, those are the great guys, you know? I was really good in training, and I would hang with these guys easy. But in fighting, I could not control it yet. That happened in Japan. First fight, and it was so quiet there. Nobody says a word. You have to understand, you can hear a pin drop. When I'm telling you that I'm talking to you right now, you're in the 30th row, I can hear everything you say. That's how quiet it is. It's really weird.
So Japanese audiences in these fights are just silent.
Because they understand that you're the professional fighter. You probably know it better than them. Unlike the rest of the world.
Oh yeah, unlike America, where we offer free advice from the stands.
Do that. Heel hook. You get in the clinch. Knee. I go, dude, come on. You know, stop. These guys are pros. They know what they're doing. So, and that's completely changed me. When I saw pictures back from my first fight and the video, I was like, what the heck is going on? Every fight that you see, every picture in Thai boxing is, every picture in my face is like that. And there, Japan was going, dong, dong, dong. There was no emotion, I just knocked people out. And I was like, I saw everything coming. I heard everybody talking. I heard the guys on the front row talking, the ones who were speaking English. I was so in the zone, and that completely changed my life. That first fight, boom, I was there.
So, you were saying in the gym you could privately, you could just you could hang with anybody, and then obviously you get out there and you had a little bit of stage fright until this month. How did you learn to best prepare mentally before a fight? How would you learn you had to get ready and to prevent that kind of jitters, etc.? Because there's got to be so much adrenaline pumping and everything. What would you do to mentally prep yourself to get in that ring?
Well, first of all, the most important thing is preparation, right? So if you go into a fight knowing that you cannot go the full 30 minutes, yeah, that's going to make you insecure. So if you berserk, go crazy, you know already you can do this. It's like you're doing an acting scene. If you don't prepare for the acting scene, well, you're going to fail.
Right.
Well, if you do it, oh, now it's much easier. Then I figured out that I was really good in talking to myself. I just talk to myself, and you can only do this with truth, because of course you know you're lying if you don't. But I will break it down. But what is the worst thing that can happen? I get knocked out. Well, apparently you're not feeling that.
I guess in fighting, what's the worst that can happen is a different question than, say, a golf game.
yeah, you missed something. But no, you get knocked out. Oh, you get in a submission? Yeah, now, if I get in an arm bar, I can let him break my arm, or I simply tap, and I'll be back next month or 2 months, and I can fight again. So what is the worst thing that can happen? Another guy completely dominating you and, knock you down and walk away, don't finish you, stand up, like toying with you. That is the worst thing that can happen. But with good matchmaking, that will never happen. So what are you afraid of? And then you realize what you're afraid of is for the people, what they think of you. Like in Holland, when I lost the Thai boxing match, they spit me out. I won like 9 fights by knockout in the first round, and I lose a fight, and suddenly I'm the worst fighter. And that really, that got to me. But that puts more pressure on the next fight again, because now you want to go to, which is not good. You leave the pressure. And I figured out, if you just say, screw you to everybody, this is weird what I'm going to say right now, including your family. You're fighting for you. If I don't care what other people say about me, I will fight with no emotion. I will fight the best. I have no aggression. I don't load up. I'm in perfect zone. And when I'm in the perfect zone, chance I'm going to win is really freaking high. And if I win, then my family is automatically taken care of because I make more money. But if I'm going to have to fight, I got to win because if I don't win, I need that extra money for that's too much pressure. Let it go. And don't care what people say about you. That's nowadays. Everybody, they're so afraid what other people tell about him, what they think of him. It's unbelievable how I don't need to tell you, social media, right? Poor kids, man. It's really sad.
So when you would talk to yourself, would this be an internal dialogue, or would you pace around the room and talk out loud to yourself?
I talk out loud to myself. I always do that. I do it in the car. There's a lot of people now. Thankfully, we have the Bluetooth. They think that I'm talking on the phone.
No one thinks you're crazy anymore. There goes Bas.
In the early days, they think this guy is talking to himself.
So, take me in the room. What would you say to yourself before a big fight? Like, how would you be talking to yourself right now?
I would go, for instance, if I would feel nerves coming up, and say, hey, boss, as soon as the bell goes, the nerves are gone. Which is 100% truth. Because it goes ding, boop, you're in a bubble. That's what I call it, a bubble. And I know the fears are gone. Everything isn't there. So I focus on that moment. I say, well, it's going to happen as soon as the bell goes, boom, boop, nerves are gone. It's really easy, and I mastered that with fighting. I mastered that because I was always afraid of getting tired. I told myself, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this. When I want to be so tired because I'm loving this, and I start repeating it, and I got tired. I say, I want to get more tired. I want to get more tired. I want to get more tired, and then I would keep going, and suddenly I needed it. Suddenly I needed to get super tired because otherwise I didn't feel complete. And that, boom, gave me a boost up again.
Wow.
Now, if I could do the same thing with everything else in life, that would be great. But apparently in fighting, I figured it out.
Man, wow. Now, when you started fighting, because right now, actually, and I wish I knew more about this, but when you were first started fighting, could you make a good living doing it? Or was it was still new of a sport and obviously not the same as, say, professional football or baseball, but...
No, it's for me it was okay in Holland, especially because we didn't have to pay taxes. There was a loophole that I had to pay $6,500 per year, no matter what money I made. So if I make $200,000, which I never made, well, the last year I made that, but I only had to pay $6,500 because they had an agreement with Japan. It was something that a friend of mine, Peter Ertz, really good striker, figured it out. His lawyer figured it out. So my first fight was $2,000. $2,000 we spent the guilder in Holland. That was before the euros, the same as a dollar. So if a beer costs two guilders in Holland, it will be $2 here. Only for us, a dollar is 2 guilders. So for me, it was 4,000, like making $4,000. So at that time, it was okay, you know. But it was not a lot because you could a lot of things go up. But slowly, but once you start winning, you know, you're going to be in demand. You can literally say, "Nah, I don't want to fight anymore for that money," you know, because I want more. And then I went to 4,000. 4.5 was the first race. 6.5, I remember that. I think 10, and then it starts going up. And then at the final end, I think I made 40,000 per fight. You have to understand, that was in the time when you won the UFC championship, 3 fights in a row, you made 60,000. You have to do 3 fights in one night. I was making 40 for one fight in Japan. So it wasn't that bad, but it's not like it is right now.
No, yeah, because it was, and then after you fought in Japan, UFC was just getting started, right? And you were one of the first sort of batch of fighters and contestants when it was in the genesis of UFC, right?
Yeah, all the way in the back. That's why I'm so proud, you know, but they inducted me into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2015 as a pioneer, you know, and they always tell me, I said, wouldn't you wish that you could fight now, you can make all that money? I said, no, I would never. Because all the fighters now are going to be the same. I'm not saying, you know, they're great. Yeah. I'm not saying that. But if you go back in history in 1,000 years from now, we are still the guys who started this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm part of that. That to me is an important thing. I love that.
What do you, when you train with the next round of fighters coming up, what do you think makes a great fighter?
Dedication, you know, right away. You come in late, you know, you get a warning, and I will tell you not to do that again. And then you come again, my attention is gone with you. So but I will make that clear the first time you come late.
I feel bad we rescheduled on you now.
No, but that's a different thing. If you really you want to be a fighter, that's the first rule that starts. With me, there's no Brazilian time, there's no nothing. I have Brazilian guys, good friends of mine. When I was training for the first time, and I know them, they live on a different time schedule. And I said, let's start at 2. And at 2:30 he wasn't there, and I started training, do a power workout for 25 minutes. And I said, I'm out of here. And when I walked out, he walked in. He says, oh, you warmed up? I said, no, I'm done. I'll see you tomorrow at 2. And I just kept walking. And I hated me to do that, but I had to do it. Because if I didn't do that, he would do it again the next day. And the next day, he was there at 2 o'clock. You see, because he understood that if you're not there at 2, I'll start. I'm not going to wait for you anymore. And especially if it happened once. So that's the first thing. That's how far you want to go. Then it's the guys who are always talking about fighting. Everywhere they are, you know, people have to know they're fighters. They're not going to make it. You know, they put way too much pressure on themselves. It's not working like that. It's the quiet, most of the time it's the quiet ones. Or you have the exciting ones like I have as well. But you know, who don't have to wear fight shirts everywhere they go. And you know, the order and I had this guy at the subway station. He goes, what would you want to have, sir? And he would go, yeah, I'll take grilled chicken breast because I have a fight coming up this weekend. You know, he would raise his voice and everybody in the room would hear that he had a fight coming up. Go, don't do that. You put so much pressure on yourself. Telling everybody, oh, I'm going to knock him out, I'm going to do this. I said, no, because now you better do it. And especially if you say it on camera before the fight and they play that on the big screen just before you walk up. Oh, my opponent's nobody. I'm going to beat him up, but I'm going to do this and this. Now you better do it. You put too much pressure. Let it go. Respect your opponent. First of all, that makes you look better if you beat him because now you say, oh, I'm fighting a really good guy. If you're fighting a loser, you beat the loser. Well, you beat a loser.
So the loudest ones are oftentimes the weakest ones. I think you mentioned that in one of your interviews that when you were a bouncer, the guys that you'd have to worry about were the quiet ones.
Oh yeah,
who wouldn't
they just look at you and they
just
go,
look at you.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're like, okay,
follow that guy.
Yeah, keep that guy.
I want to know his license plate.
Yeah. And you know, so you mentioned determination, just the willingness to work hard. You told this amazing story of this fighter you met on the set of one of your movies. I think it was Here Comes the Boom. I think his name was Nick.
Yeah, Nick Newell. Good.
So that's an example of what you're talking about, right? Tell us about Nick.
Nick is a guy with a congenital amputee. He has a half an arm. So no hands, no nothing, and that's it. And he walks up to me on the set of Here Comes the Boom as an extra, and he says, hey, Bas, I want you to remember me because I'm a fighter. I go, with that arm? And he goes, yes. I go, dude, I really respect that. That is so freaking awesome. So I didn't know anything about him. I said, give me your address. So I sent everything that I have, DVDs, instructionals, and workouts, because I wanted him to succeed. And suddenly, I have had a show on TV for 9 years, Inside MMA. It was a weekly live TV show about mixed martial arts. And suddenly I saw his name pop up. And it popped up again. And he's winning. I mean, his first 12 fights. And he's finishing people. It's like from the first 12 fights, maybe 2 decisions. The rest all like submissions. I mean, he was doing really well with half an arm. So, you know, making connections like that. Then you know, and then see a guy like that now for the UFC fighting. And
he made it. He made it.
Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable. It's
How do you fight? Like, I mean, it's just, he just learns to...
Listen, I had 4 neck surgeries. I lost control of my hand. I couldn't snap my fingers for 4 years. I couldn't pull the trigger from a gun. That's how bad it was. And I was complaining because I used to do 9 one-arm pull-ups, right? And then going from there, suddenly not able to grab a cup. That's a very, you know, as a fighter, you go, oh, shoot, it's crazy. And then I thought about Nick Newell. And I go, oh no, then I got my hand back. Suddenly my hand started working again. And then I told the Lord, I go, I'm good. I got my hand, I'm good. I don't need anything anymore because this, look, it's all gone. Muscle, but this arm is like 70% weaker than my left arm.
Wow. All right, so you got determination, and you got to be on time, and you have to have that that mindset. Is there anything else that you look for in a fight? Like, I'm curious, how much of it is natural talent versus the willingness to just outwork your opponent? Yeah,
that's a good question. There's a give and take. I know guys who have to work 5 times more than me to get the same result. I know guys who do in half the amount of time what I do to get the same results. Super talented. But the guys who have to work 5 times harder than you are the toughest guys to fight because they have to work 5 times harder than you and they do not want to give it away. So sometimes you have guys who cannot even walk straight with the toes pointing and you go like, and they become a freaking world champion.
Wow.
Those are the guys I really respect because they have to work so hard to get there.
Were a lot of fighters, I'm curious, how often do you see the story of being bullied or, because I hear like Mike Tyson talk about it, and are a lot of fighters, do they have, is that a common thread you find in a lot of stories?
Yeah, it's either the parents, you know, the father was beating up the mother or them, and you know, something like, there's always something happened. I know a handful, I believe, BJ Penn is the only person I know that comes from a wealthy family that didn't need to fight, but is just a freak of nature and a really good fighter. And,
wow.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that you said that, actually, I'm curious, before you're about to go in a ring and kill each other, you said most of the fighters, you're all friends.
Yeah.
You're not going to hang out the night before, but afterwards you're going to have a beer, relax,
oh, yeah,
hang out.
Party time.
So is all that just promo, just build up and hype, just for marketing, and then the reality is you guys are just doing your sport, and then afterwards you're friends?
Well, there's a lot of it, it's fake, but if you see like with the McGregor, the way he's doing Conor McGregor, then he will get inside their heads, and they get heated. Those situations are real, you know. For me, it's always, I like the opposite. I like to be in control. If you're angry, you're not in control. If I'm angry, if I want to hit you, I hate you, I'm going to do this. Boom, I'm going to load up. If I don't have anger, I'm going to punch from here. I'm not telegraphing. But if I'm angry, I want to hurt you, I'm going to load up. Once you start loading up, well, that's easier to fight a guy like that. That's why a lot of these fighters do it on purpose. I would do it as well, but to a degree that people didn't even pick it up. I would say, you know, what do you think is going to happen with him? I said, well, yeah, he's a good fighter. I just better in all the areas that we're on. I said, but he's a great fighter. But I would wave that off right away. I know that he only hears, oh, you're better than every part. You see? All the other people, they don't really know because I did it under my breath. But for him, it hurts him. And he's going, oh, really? Oh, really? And that's what I want, because the more angry they are, the easier they're going to be to fight. You know, there's just anger. People are always afraid of anger. Anger is an insecurity. The real reasons to get angry in your entire life, maybe you can count on one hand. Yeah. That is really if you're in control. I'm not that guy, by the way, because I explode sometimes. But since I got back into the faith, I understand these things now. Maybe one and a half year, maybe one explosion I have. And an explosion with me is just hitting something. Yeah. And then I go, I'm hitting something? How old am I? What, I'm freaking 55. Like I'm a little kid. You know, I get so upset with just hitting something. Not even doing something bad, but just losing cool at one moment. I can't stand that. You know, so stay calm helps you with everything.
Have you ever been? Is there a fight that you've walked in and right before the fight you're just terrified? You're like, this guy is scary, or do you have so much preparation and you just know, hey, I can hang with anybody?
Yeah, I always thought I would win anyway. You know, I think it's very, people go, oh, it's an ego. I say, I don't think it's a healthy way to go to a fight and think that you might lose. I think you need to be completely convinced that you're going to win this fight. Klar, done. And if he's going to win, who's going to have to work for it? That.
Yeah.
You know, but I had a fight in where they tricked me. It was my last fight in Pancras. I didn't want to fight, but to help them out, because since I left, there was less attendance, and they said, do you want to fight? One more to fight for us? I said, well, listen, in October, I'm going to fight Randy Couture. That was on the schedule at the time. It never happened, but it was on the schedule of time in the UFC. I said, this is in September. I said, so this is the first time I'm going to tell you I don't want to fight a top guy, because if I hurt myself, I can't fight in the UFC. This is important to me. No, we got this new guy for you. Don't worry about it, and it's going to be just fine. I said, okay, I'll fight him. I'll take him down. I'm not even going to hit him because I didn't want to hurt my hands, you know, and I will take him down and go for a submission. So I'm walking on the street 2 days before the fight, and Guy Metzger, another fighter, comes to me and he says, hey, boss, you know they've been training this guy for like 2.5 years for you or so. I said, excuse me? Yeah, he's an ex-rugby player, professional rugby player from Japan. He saw your fight against Funaki, and you knocked Funaki out. He was his hero. He came into the gym and he says, I want to set the record straight. I want to train for Bas Rutten. They trained this guy specially for me. Now I was like, oh, they lied. You know? Okay, I will knock him out now. I'm not going to submit this guy. And when you look at that fight, it's against Watanabe is his last name. It's the last fight in Pancras. You can see it. I'm completely all over the place. That's what anger does. That's my worst fight. I'll knock him out.
Well, you were deceived. I
was deceived, but I can't, instead of saying, okay, calm down, you know, I'll knock him out. Like, and in my Funaki fight, he came before me and he slit his throat right in front of my face. And I go, oh, I'm going to kill him. And then my manager goes like, stay calm. I said, don't worry, I'll stay completely calm. I said, but if I pull the trigger, you watch. I'm gonna destroy the guy. I broke his nose, both cheekbones. I mean, went to town on that guy because he just pissed me off, but I was still able to control it. That was the last moment thing. This was 2 days in my head. And I'm all in the morning, I'm getting angry, and I couldn't control my anger. And I just started wailing, and like I said, I just had a lot of power and I knocked him out. But if you watch the fight, it's not pretty. Let me tell you that.
Wow, man. Oh, now I'm curious. How do you get so tough with pain management? And I mean, you're famous for you'll stick syringes under your eye to get I mean, I'm trying. So the other day the hot water went out in my apartment and I had to take a really cold shower, and it was what I would consider the toughest thing I've done in the last couple months. And then I read that you have injected, you know, a syringe to suck blood out.
That was after a fight. That was a one-time
hands
thing.
have broke. You actually snapped a guy's shin bone in a hold, and were awarded an honorary black belt for this. How are you born with the ability to withstand insane amounts of pain, or do you just get used to it? I'm trying to figure out what would prompt someone to say, I know I need to do this, and then just go.
No, okay, this was after a fight, after my world title fight, and the guy really beat me up, Kevin. Became a good friend of mine, by the way, for the world title for the UFC. Unfortunately, he passed away a bunch of years ago to a pneumonia. It was crazy because this guy was the toughest guy I know. And I mean, he had a car landing on him. He pushed him off. I mean, he survived everything. And I think pneumonia got to him. Anyway, he smashed my face up in the first 4 minutes of the fight, first 3 minutes of the fight. And it was completely failed. So after the fight, I won. It was a split decision. It could have gone either way. And I walked back and I blew my nose. It's something you never should do, of course, because then everything blows up. So if you have a black eye, never blow up your nose. So my eye was blowed up, but I wanted to party because it felt good. It was just my face was bashed in. And
I felt good, but my face was bashed in.
That was it, yeah. Because I won, you know, it's nice. So my doctor was with me and I say, hey, did you bring a syringe? I need some with a white gouge. And she said, let me look. And she looked and she put it in. And I remember I put it in my eye and I just sucked the blood out of my eyes. And then I put shades on and we went out. It's funny because I had a very famous fighter. I heard him tell that story one time to another fighter. He didn't know I was overhearing them. And he goes, this guy, he stabs him. And this is a famous fighter. And he's just like the freaking Terminator. And while I'm listening, I go, yeah, if you look at it like that, it looks weird. But at that moment, it's just normal. It's like, oh, there's a swelling. Let's get rid of it. just do it. And too gentle. It's not like, oh, you know, I'll make sure that I...
But you have a high threshold for pain, though.
Well, everybody has. You get used to it. You know, for instance, if you start Thai boxing in the beginning, let's say you didn't Thai box for 2 months anymore, and you go back and people kick your arm, you feel in your arms, you go like, hey, what is going on? I feel my arms. Well, you had that all the way back as well. But you do this over and over again, and this doesn't go full power, but you simply get used to it, like anything else in life. So, and that's, I know these guys with completely dead shins, like the Peter Arts I was going to talk about. He would kick light poles as hard as he can. Like would kick freaking dents in it. Didn't feel anything. His muscle next to his shin bone was completely gone. The shin bone would stick out. Zero pain in there. You see, I never was like that. You know, but you know, you get used. If you break a hand, you got to keep on fighting. You got to, and it's every time, you know. But the more you do it, you get stronger.
Wow. So you have this incredible career, champion fighter, and your next challenge is, of course, even scarier. You have to assist Paul Barton Mall Cop, right? Yeah. And you have to work with Kevin James, train him. Obviously, the scariest fighter you've ever encountered is Kevin James, I imagine. You know? But people love your personality. How did you get into acting? And I'm curious if you prep for acting the same way you prep for a fight. If you're just in your dressing room talking to yourself.
Yeah. You see, with acting, I wish that I could talk to myself the way I did in fighting, because acting still makes me nervous. Because to be completely in the zone, well, I came to America in '97, May '97, and within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I was taking acting classes. I still had 5 fights on the contract, 4 fights in Japan, I believe, and 2 fights for the UFC, because I was going to go there. And I figured that, you know, acting is a job. I already knew. I didn't like doing interviews in the beginning. I rather fought than I do an interview. I would be more nervous for an interview than for fighting. And then suddenly you do interviews, it becomes normal. So I immediately saw that. I go, okay, so I need to get, because once I have to start acting in front of people, I'm going to be really nervous. So I start taking acting classes at the Beverly Hills Playhouse in Beverly Hills. And that's how I just started. And then I think what the most helped me was when they asked me to be an announcer for fighting. And now suddenly I have to open the show live. No room for mistakes. You know, and that's nerve-wracking in the beginning. But again, preparation. You know, the more you prepare, the easier it is. And once you do that live, and there's no room for mistakes, and you do make mistakes to, you know, to overcome that mistake right away, you learn how to deal with those situations. I think that helped me a lot in acting.
Wow. Because,
yeah, now it was live on TV, no room. What I always say, that's the same with fighting. Once there's no room for mistake, everything under pressure is different. I give the example, a good friend of mine, Amir Peretz, he's a Krav Maga guy, really good guy, and he explained it one time. Since then I've been explaining it like this. Imagine you have a plank, like a 1 foot wide plank, like 2 inches thick, and it lays on the floor, it's 20 feet long. And you put it on the ground and you say, walk over it. And in the middle, make a pirouette. It's easy. Now put that same plank in between 2 buildings, 5 stories up. Do the same. Whoa. There's no room for mistakes. And that's when people start making mistakes, because the pressure. And that is, you can apply that to anything out there. To read the opening statement in a court,
yep.
You know, nice and easy at home in front of a mirror, but now a full court, and maybe the guy you're defending, his life depends on what you're going to say. That's a lot of pressure to do it exactly like you do at home. Acting, you know, everything is much more difficult than you think. I knew guys, fighters, who said their preparation for acting was watching movies. I go, wow, that's great. So you watched a lot of MMA then before you started fighting, right? And they look at me, I go, yeah, that sounds stupid, right? Yeah, because it is stupid. You're a dumbass. Who does that? Who thinks that they can act big watching a movie? It's the dumbest thing. Did you have to take classes for your mixed martial arts? Yeah, oh really? Yeah, maybe you should do that with acting as well, right? It makes sense. Just do it. Go in front of the whole class. I mean, I remember my first, I had to be a Russian badass, and I had to pour in a shot. And I remember I couldn't pour it in. And they say there's tricks, because they say a lot of people, first of all, get a pourer, and second of all, let the pourer just lean on the glass. That's the trick, what they do. Now, if you completely control these guys, like I was in fighting, you know, yeah, they do that. But I also took the smallest glass there was possible. You know, I should have been prepared a little bit, made it a wider glass, you know. But you see, but that's me. That's a guy who didn't lose his last 22 fights, 4 world titles. You would think no, I was really freaking nervous. So you have to prepare for that.
Wow, that's awesome. And in addition to acting, you're also an inventor.
Yeah.
So tell us about, is it called the O2 system?
Yeah, the O2 trainer.
The O2 trainer. So tell us about that.
So what happened was we were talking about asthma and my track and field. And after I would have asthma attacks. 7-8 days in bed, 24/7. Not able to eat because I couldn't breathe. So people, I always laugh when people go, oh, my asthma is acting up. 8 days, 24 hours a day. Do that. That's asthma. And that's what I had. But after an asthma attack, if I would resume my track and field, I would break my running times every time. And it drove me nuts. I had no clue why that was. I was taking medication. I'm young. I'm 14 years old. I go, what's going on? What's going on? I'm trying to figure these things out. And then I went to the doctor's office and I saw a poster of a pair of lungs on the wall. And they showed that the infection is actually not in your lungs. The infection is in the airways that go to the lungs. And they showed an infected airway and they showed a healthy airway open. And that was it. I came up with that idea at 14 years old. I go, oh, I've been pulling air in through an infected area, just training my lungs. At that time, I was thinking that your lungs were doing the work, but your lungs don't. There's no muscle in your lungs. Your body actually breathes for you, but I thought the lungs were doing it. I've been making my lungs stronger, I thought, by pulling into the infected area for 7 or 8 days straight, 24 hours a day. Then when the infection is gone, now it's stronger, it's easier to pull air in. Oh, why don't I come up with something that controls the air intake, you know? And I put one on my... So this is the first thing I started using. Washers. That's literally, I put it on my keychain because that gave me the idea. I will put it in front of my tooth and we'll try to breathe through that little tiny hole, realizing it's super dangerous because if you open your mouth, it shoots in your lung, you're dead. Like if it bypasses your airways that I was just talking about, you're dead. There's no Heimlich that can take that thing out. That's why I always tell people with gum, don't put gum in your mouth. I mean, if you breathe it and it shoots in your lung, that's it. You're dead. You know, you can Google it, how many people, because people die of that. So that's why I'm very aggressive in my class. Gum, swallow, spit it out right now. I don't want you to die, because if I see you chewing gum and something happens, imagine you die and I didn't say anything. I said that's not going to happen. So every person gets the same treatment, but you won't see it in my class because they know. But that was it. I started coming up with that thing, and then many years later, I just, friends of mine, because I was always talking about my invention, which was called the Ruttenizer. That was my first name. And they said, man, you got to make this thing. And I started making a prototype about 10 years ago. I started working out with the prototype. Now, understand, I was taking an inhaler with me everywhere. Every single fight I've ever had in my life, I had an inhaler in the dressing room because I still had asthma. If I would sneeze violently 3 times, I need an inhaler to open up my lungs because it would close. If I wouldn't have one with me, that's going to be a problem. So everywhere in the world, I always was carrying an inhaler with me. 3 weeks training with the prototype, no more inhaler.
Wow.
Sent it to my buddy in Holland, same thing there. 8 days later, he says, I want to sell them. He sells them in Holland right now, actually, in Europe, because his asthma was gone in 8 days. And now I have pulmonologists buying them from me. Now I'm going to get FDA approved. Now people are COPD, asthma patients. I have on my website, if you buy the O2 trainer for your asthma, and your asthma you have to do 30 days, it takes 4 minutes a day. If it's not 70 or 80% less or gone, I'll give you your money back. That's how secure I am what it does. I need to see 30 videos of you doing it, because we all think we're tough, but you're not. You know, people do it for 10 days and then suddenly 4 minutes becomes too long. You know, it's crazy. I've been doing it since May 2018. Every day. And you have
Olympians using this, right? Like you
Olympians using it. Everybody. Singers. I had the sax player from the Eagles, SAS. Guys I don't know, you know, and
wow.
It's doing incredible things right now.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Well, we've come to that point in our camping trip where we have to get into what really matters, right? Ooh. And as a president once said, a s'more score and 7 years ago, I came up with an amazing s'more recipe. I am extremely curious about what a professional champion fighter would pick as his s'mores. There are some rumors that you have an ongoing affair with Snickers. Look, the last thing you need is for another ad to tell you how awesome a product is.
Superfood organic brew. God.
You don't need to hear how smooth it is. Or how it features functional ingredients like lion's mane. And I would never presume that my words could sway you into purchasing this most delicious brew. But seriously, buy this coffee. It's amazing, and it just might change your life.
Yeah, 100%. I was first going to say, probably a lot of broccoli, but there's no way because I don't like that. No, Snickers. That's 100%. That would be my thing. I would just put Snickers in the middle. I don't know what I have with Snickers since I was a kid. I always enjoyed Snickers. It's it's good. I like the caramel. If I add ice cream, it's nuts and caramel, and it's always vanilla. So I think I get pulled towards to the Snickers. So yeah, I never did it, but I should put it on a s'more one time and actually try it out.
Oh man, I wish, man, Snickers, if you're watching, we got a big fan over here.
That's a commercial right there.
Now I am especially excited about this segment, which we're going to do special just for you. Oh. We like to tell scary stories. We are at a campfire, and you have some gnarly stories. So we are going to do a little extended edition of this, but you have a story involving a haunted house, and I would love if you would regale us with that story.
It was my old home, our old home, the one that we moved in, that we left in 2006. Okay, how do I say this? There was a woman, later on we found out a woman passed away there. And my whole kids' family saw them. Like my daughter, my oldest daughter here can actually describe what she looks like.
You mean you had a woman ghost?
Woman ghost. I've never, I at the time was a heavy drinker. And I'm the opposite of being angry. But dancing with the kids and having fun and doing this is still not being a good father. And I now later looking back on this whole thing, I think it was her because nobody got bothered. It was only me. She was going, "Hey, douche, wake up! You got a family here. You need to be man up. What are you doing? You're drinking." So that's what I think would happen. And it started with attacking me in my sleep. And I know people go, I would completely be paralyzed. Oh, sleep paralysis. No, because I could completely look around the room and I would feel this pressure. Go, what's going on? So I was completely open, but only I felt that. And then the only way to get out of it was mentally get very angry. Well, at the time I was still using profanity. It was before I got back into the face, so that a big F-bomb would fly out. And my wife would freak out. She'd go, again? I go, yeah, again. And then I would challenge it. I said, come back. I'm going to go sleep right now. Now I want you. Every time you're waiting for the sucker punching day, I said, let's do it right now. I would try to go, but then, of course, it would never happen again. One day we came home, and I felt there was a presence in the house, a person. That's what I thought.
You thought someone had broken into the house? Yeah.
I don't know why. I opened the door. I said, I felt something. And I tell my kids, I say, stay there. Keep the door open so you can see what's going on. And I thought there was there's two rooms. Here's a kitchen, and here's the dining room, and here's an open kitchen. And I thought somebody was here. So what I did, I started making a lot of noise moving here. So thinking if he's there, he's going to move this way. And then I make a U-turn and catch the guy. Now, before you go into the kitchen, instead of a door, we had this thick curtain hanging in front of it. And I made a U-turn, I come around the corner, and the curtain flies up against the seal. Somebody ran through it. So I keep running, but there was nobody in the house. And that was like, okay, now it becomes physical. Now it's like, now I see a curtain not move, flying up. People go to me, maybe the window was up. Well, first of all, we just came home. I'm very anal about closing every little thing before I go to sleep. It happens 3 times. I said, plus there was not a Hurricane 4, Category 4 going on.
Yeah, make a curtain fly
up against the wall. Come on, man. I'm not stupid. So that freaked me out. Then I somehow I knew that 3 a.m. was the activity from the demonic activity the most. No clue that Jesus passed away at 3 p.m. and that at 3 a.m. would be that time. But somehow I knew, because I wasn't in the faith yet at that time. So then I I started just challenging it at that spot where the curtain flew up, because it was always cold there. The whole house would be warm, there was cold. There was a weird smell sometimes too, under a chandelier. And I just stood there for like 45 minutes. I said, let's do this. You know, if you want to go, let's go. I said, you got to bring it down to my level, right? If I can't see you fight, but I would love, make yourself physical. Let's make this happen, you know, I would love to try. And I just kept going, and that was it. It never happened anymore. Then I got to say so, because we left the house and we went to a new house. And in a new house, I woke up after the first night and I asked my kids how the first night was. And my oldest daughter again, who saw that woman, said, it was a great night. I had 2 visits from 2 boys. And I knew immediately, guy, whoa, what are you talking? Spirits then, right? She goes, yeah. I go, honey, what? He says, no, Dad, it was completely nice. They were really nice. But one wanted to keep on playing. He was pushing on my bed the whole time, and I asked him to please to stop doing that. I said, whoa, break down. How old? I don't know, 16, 17 years old. I go, this is crazy. So I'm walking down, go to the computer. After something happened on the street. Boom, first thing that is, I click the link. In 2001, 4 kids, 3 boys, 1 girl, drove, lost control on Christmas through our wall. I'm walking outside. I see the hole in the wall where they repaired it. 2 kids died, 2 boys, 16 and 17 years old.
No, whoa.
And I go, okay, that was complete confirmation that...
How old was your daughter?
Well, that was 2006. She's 24 now, so... Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. So now I knew that if there's that evil, that this case was good, but there are spirits, there's got to be good, you know, and that put everything together for me. And that's when, and then I had this talk with Leo Severino. I probably know him as well.
A theologian.
Yeah, a very smart guy. And he was at the set one time, and he was going to do a talk about where we come from. It's called The Leaf Fell from the Tree. So if you have guys who don't believe, buy that book. He actually wrote a book, The Leaf Fell from the Tree. Going deeper. But it starts with the leaf fell from the tree. So, all my medication that I took as a kid, as a child, made me forget everything. I don't have a lot of memories because it was the medication. They figured it out when they had to send me when I had to go to high school, to the worst high school there was, because I wasn't good. And then they found out it was the medication. They stopped the medication for a year. Now suddenly I went to the highest there was, because all my memory came back. But before that, I don't have a lot of memory because it was so clouded. And there was one memory that always stuck with me. It's me looking outside the window, looking at the tree. And I remember the whole class tried to get my attention. And then finally the teacher was calling, hey, Ruth. I go, what? And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking at that tree. He said, what about that tree? I said, where does it come from? And he said, well, they planted it there, stupid. I go, I understand that. I said, but the tree before that, and the tree before that, and the tree before that. And if you go back, where do trees come from? What's the first tree? How does this work? And it just blew my mind, you know. And somehow this was so vivid in my memory. And then many years later, in 2014 or 13, Leo does this talk. And the first thing he starts with is the leaf fell from a tree. And he says that leaf just reached its end destination. Let's backtrack this leaf. Go to the branch, go to the tree before, go to the tree before, tree before. And he starts doing what I was doing at 10 years old. Why would I have that memory so vivid? And then he suddenly starts saying the same story. This is after the attack with the spirit, with everything happened. And now suddenly everything started going with me. Oh, shit. This is the reason. God planted the seed there. And he said, hey, they will come back. Don't worry what it is. Many years later, you will feel this. And then, boom, Leo started talking about it. And when he goes backtracking, he eventually gets to a solid proof of the existence of God, you know. And it's done in such a way there's no other way. I mean, if scientists say we're here with one cell and this all came and, you know, and they laugh about us, I go, dude, that is laughable to me. And, by the way, if it's all from one cell, you gotta admit it's one intelligent cell then, right? Boom, there we have intelligence. And there's God again. You see, so you can never move that away. It's just something, it is. Accept it, you know, and we should accept it. And it's sad, you know, that people are so against it, a lot of people. You know what it is? Because, well, people who do good, you know, are a thorny reminder of the ones who don't, who are not. You know, so it's easier to say, You know all the guys, 70% of the guys, it's only women attack, bam, bam, bam. If you say, no, I don't do that, you're the laughing stock. They start laughing at you. Oh, you don't cheat? Oh, look at this guy. Don't cheat.
Yeah.
Are you serious? We're so far away from reality and the truth. People, when they say, oh, I sin because I suffer, I mean, it's completely backwards. It's not. You suffer because you don't want to sin. That's what's really going on. It's hard to say no if somebody offers to you, which is very cute. No, it's hard. It's hard to say no to an extra beer if you already like beer or drugs or whatever it is. That is hard. To walk a straight path is hard. We got the Stairway to Heaven, right? We got a Highway to Hell. Listen, they wrote 2 movies about it. They anticipated the traffic. And that's really what's going on right now. Yeah. I think the world needs more love. Needs more Jesus.
So no one, given that you've experienced curtains flying and supernatural phenomena, no one's going to convince you. They might go, oh, boss, you've been hitting the head too many times. But you're going to say, no, I know from my own experience that there is more than we can see with our eyes. There's more going on behind the scenes. And I'm curious, with your return to faith and Catholicism, how have you changed as a person?
Oh, well, the profanity was the first thing that I stopped. And that's what my friends realized. For the rest, they didn't realize a thing. My wife's very easy to pull back in right away because she saw me change immediately. I've been that guy, I was the same thing, like everybody else is, Catholic, pedophile priest, this, you're a blood, you're stupid, the same thing, do the same thing. Cops, you like to kill black people. I mean, we have all these, we put people in boxes, and you realize it's so stupid what you're doing. It's not, if 2% or 1 or 2% of the cops are bad, that doesn't make all the cops bad. Why do we always have to go to the negative one? Why is it when you have 80, you're putting a message out on social media, 80 great messages, 1 bad one, guess where the attention is going? It's always going to go to the bad one.
You only remember the bad ones.
That's it. And if you flip it around, you do 80 bad ones and 1 good one. It's not going to go to the good one. You see what it is? So we are attracted to bad, 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 bad. And that's what everybody lives in right now. And you just have to remove yourself from a situation. Just look at truth. If somebody is a douchebag, it doesn't matter if he's black or anything. It doesn't matter if he's white. It doesn't matter anything. You're a douchebag. That's it. Not if you say it to a person of color, now I'm a racist. No, if that guy's a real douchebag and he did really bad things, that's what it is. That's the truth. And that's the problem we have right now. You can't say anything anymore. If you don't post a black picture that you don't care about black people, I mean, who makes that up? You don't make that up, what I think. I hate racists. They're dumb people. Actually, because if you call me a racist, you think I'm stupid? Because stupid people are racist. Because we're all the same. We're all the blood. The black person blood can save a white one and the other way around. I mean, it's the same. People are idiots. But they all follow this herd. They're all a bunch of sheep here. That's what they talk about in the Bible. You have the sheep, you have the wolves, and you have the sheepdogs. Now, I consider myself a sheepdog. That's the ones who protect the sheep from the wolves. And the people go, oh, I don't want a sheepdog. You are sheep. If you go with the whole herd and you just repeat what other people tell you, you're a sheep. That's what you're doing. So that's what I tell to the people always, to kids. What would you suggest to kids? I said, make your own decision. If something comes up, don't listen because you look up to this person because you don't know that person. We have actors that we say, oh, they're great actors, and they get caught because they did horrible things. What? Oh, he voted a certain president and you're going to vote because he votes that? That's the dumbest thing. Do your own homework. That's what I'm telling you. And then you figure out what is right. And decision, you can't judge. And if you have to judge, make sure you know from both parties what is going on before you judge. I have been wrong with that many times. And since I got back to the faith, I will completely step back. Like people do something crazy, and I go, dude, that was way worse. When I was a kid. That's as simply as we all do it. But we all try to help other people. Matthew 5, what is it? Matthew 5, 1-7, right? The thorn in the eye, You got the, don't try to take the speck out of your brother's eye. First take the wooden beam out of your own eye. And once you take that out, you can see clear enough to take the little speck out of your brother's eye. That was the first verse that can hit me right in the face. I go, dude, that's what we all do. I tell my cousin, don't drink, and I'm home and drinking. You see, it's so easy to tell people what to do, but you're doing it yourself. And you always do the same thing, maybe in a different degree or in a different object. If it's not drinking for you, maybe it's drugs. We all have our vices. And we all do these things. So step back, relax. Somebody's bad, yeah. Or you think if they're If 1.25% of the priests, if they're pedophiles at all, okay, well, then now you understand you have a pedophile in your family then, right? And that's blood related. I mean, if you have 25 people in your family, statistics say there's one. You might have two, you might have none. That might as well. You might have also three. So, and that is blood related. What if your other family member did something really bad, killed a person? You're a killer now? You see, but that's how people think.
Yeah.
And I can't stand it. And this whole, especially California, I mean, you can't say anything as a comedian. How many comedians stop now being a comedian because they can't say things? It's comedy. Oh, yeah. Ricky Gervais. Look at this guy. I applaud a guy like that who says, whatever, dude, I do whatever I want. He is joking, guys.
Yeah.
That's what his job is. Let him do it, but no. Oh, so yeah.
So you don't have a lot of opinions on this.
No, I always do have an opinion, but I'm not going to be as vocal anymore about it. It's something. I always try to step back now and just really listen to it. And if I hear something, I'm going to first double check if that happened, because all these things that I'm saying right now, I used to do as well.
Yeah.
But that completely changed me when I got back into the faith. And I have to say, we have really good guys guiding us, spiritual directors. We're talking about the top guys, and if you really break everything down, how everything works with the senses coming in and the cogitative power and where it goes to the irascible appetite, and once you start understanding all that, you go like, whoa, I can stop it at the moment the senses come in. There we go. Remember, the naked girl and the bikini girl and the website, it starts with that. That's years ago that I even looked at it. Because I just mentally, you see, no, it's gone. What is it going to do for you? That's what I tell people.
So you like yourself a lot more?
Oh, much more.
Now that you...
Much more. But this is not a scary side as well. Because in the beginning, I said in an interview one time, they say, oh, so you have fear of God? I said, no, I don't have fear of God. Because I thought I was completely already the saint I was. And then when I got deeper, I realized, oh man, I wish I never said that.
Now I'm sure God up there is just going,
oh, here we go. Yeah.
I know.
Exactly, because then you find all the little ones. Those are hard ones. You have to understand that I'm very good. I go to confession. I have a priest who laughed at me, I go, it's funny. He said, that's not a sin, Bas. I said, to me, it feels as a sin. Maybe an envy thing or something. I don't want to have that.
Yeah.
So I want to, so those things I see right now. In the early days, I would see someone who looks really weird with change or running around. I go, look at the douche. I will never do that anymore. I might think it, and immediately when I think it, I go, dumbass, you shouldn't do that. Because it's just a person, So those things help me a lot, but it's still hard.
I loved a quote that you gave where you said, people, get off your phones, get off social media, try it out for 90 days. Like anything, it's almost like you bring a workout regimen to your spiritual formation. And so tell us about, you're a big believer that a lot of people just haven't honestly tried, right?
Yep.
They have not tried to actually like, hey, if this is real, it's a huge deal. If it's not real, then who cares? You're gonna be fine. It's win-win. But give it a shot. Read the Bible. Open it up. 90 days. Is that what you're...
Well, the thing was, you talked about these cold showers that you had, and it was really hard to do. Well, that's Exodus 90, what you were talking about. That's like Lent on steroids. That is, and I'm looking up right now so that I can literally read you this, and you're gonna, you watch, all on my iPhone. Boom, Exodus.
That was a cold shower. That was tough.
So you're only allowed for 90 days, 3 months. Take short cold showers.
Oh.
Only that. Practice regular intense exercise. Easy. Get a full night's sleep. That's easy. Abstain from alcohol. Abstain from desserts and sweets. Abstain from eating between meals. Abstain from soda and sweet drinks. Abstain from television, movies, televised sports. Abstain from video games. Abstain from non-essential material purchases. Only listen to music that lifts the soul to God. Only use the computer for work, your school, or essential tasks. Only use your mobile devices for the same reasons. Practice fasting days. 2 fasting days as well. Once you start doing this, it's very hard. But in 90 days, well, look at my social media. That declined 90% after this. Because I realized I was wasting a lot of time on getting likes.
That sounds terrible.
But you know what? It completely freed us up. We did with like 11 guys, and everybody was like, man.
You triggered me a little bit. You said non-essential. That's something that's very sensitive to me in California. You know, I mean, who's to say what's essential? Right? I mean, I'm an essential worker, Bas. My show is very essential. I was like, it's very essential right now. I want to move into the last part here. Is the other important pillar here. I was reading up on marriage life for you, and you said you would study submissions and fight so much that you would dream about submissions and holds. And tell us what would happen to your poor wife in the middle of the night.
Yeah, my wife, man, she's a saint. Staying with me, oof, I was a crazy man. So that's why I said I don't judge. I lost fights by way of submission, and my last loss was the third loss by submission. And it really got me angry because I can't stand losing. I'm a very sore loser. So I realized I either learn this game or I got to quit. Because otherwise I can become a champion, but maybe, I'm going to lose the next time in my defense with the submission. Again, stupid. So, okay, I got to do this stupid thing. So I started pushing myself to do it. And then I got the submission bug. Then I became obsessed with it. Now it's post-its all over the house with combinations. Now I realize, oh man, there's so many combinations you can do. I mean, I always thought it was for sissies. Stand up, fight like a man. I said this one time to a fighter who invited me to go to the ground. I go like, dude, if a good submission fighter, I can dislocate any joint in your body and I can break any bone in your body. That's a pretty big power to have, right?
Yeah.
So it's absolutely not the sissy. I think it's actually way worse than the boxers or Thai boxers, because you have a hold of somebody, you can do whatever you want to do. You can put him to sleep, break his leg, whatever you want to do, you can do. That's how powerful that is. So then I start seeing that, and then I start seeing, wait a minute, but an armbar, they all do it the same way. Wait a minute, if I create a different way to go to the armbar, and thankfully I had a really good trainer. I had one training partner. I would put an armbar on him twice, then he would know the setup. So I need to create a different setup. But he would know that setup after a couple of times again. I need to create another setup. Suddenly I had 4 different setups for every single move. And then I started attacking, go from setup 1 to 4, 3 and 2, boom, 2 hits.
Wow.
And bam, 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 bam. And now I became crazy, writing post-its, waking up in the middle of the night, dreaming a submission. I put my wife in a submission. I go, honey, wake up. And I go, I have my shoulder. It's your shoulder, right? Yeah, good. I see it's your shoulder. And then I would write it down, and I would go the next day to class, and I would try it out in training.
Your wife would wake up in the middle of the night, and you'd have her in a
I would wake her up first.
And then your first question would not be, "Are you all right?" It would be, "Oh, where's it hurt? Where am I getting?" Okay, good. Thank you. She stayed in the same room with you after that?
Yeah. No, it did happen a bunch of times. This is not one time.
Oh my god!
I would walk in the kitchen. I would say, lean over. I would get her in like a chair. He says, "Do you feel pressure, or you think, or you feeling getting lightheaded?" She's just lightheaded. I see it's a blood choke. It's not a windpipe choke. But all the time. Listen, when I become obsessed, I become obsessed. And this is what happened with me with the faith as well. Once I go in, now I want to do everything Latin. I want to do everything. I want to go all the way. If we do it, let's do it right. That's what I say. Why would you do something half? In fighting, but punching, can I knock somebody out standing on one leg? I say, yeah, everybody can do that. But why wouldn't you make the perfect punch if you can make the perfect punch?
Totally.
Perfection. Always look for perfection. And once you start doing that, you're going to be just fine.
Wow, your poor wife. What wisdom do you have? How long you been married now?
We're 28 years together. We got married 3 times because in 2015 we got married again for the church as well.
28 years. Okay, so you must have learned a thing or two besides how to put your wife in a chokehold.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What's Bas's wisdom on marriage?
It's give and take. It's putting yourself in the same line as your wife. If I have to get angry still to my wife because she takes the trash cans outside, puts them back in, so just tell me, let me do that. I'm kind of embarrassed if people see you do that. You see, but that's my wife. Now if my wife is in the office and she's very busy and the kitchen is a disaster, I'll clean up the kitchen before she comes in. She doesn't have to ask. These are things that you do both. Decisions are making both. My kids, since 2006 at least, they will never see us even in an argument. My wedding, we figured it out so much, and especially when I got back to the faith, there is 0 stress in our house. 0. They'll never see us fight. And that comes from my dad. I never saw my mom and dad fight. I have an argument. I saw one time my mother put, let's say, a poster from the opposite party that my dad was voting for. And I remember him coming home, and my wife says, hello, and he didn't say anything. He just walked to the window, and he ripped the poster off, and he walked to her, and he says, don't do that anymore. That was the only thing that I saw. What's going on? That's how loud it went. You see? So it's peace and quiet. It's give and take. It's what you become one flesh. You put her on a pedestal and you do everything. Treat her like a princess that she deserves.
What's the, we love asking this question. What's something that you should say to your wife, but you don't say enough?
Ooh, I try to be good.
Don't worry, we can edit this in post.
No, but I'm saying, like,
Mrs. Rutten, we will take care of it.
I'm trying to be good, you know. Like, yeah, I don't know, because I think I say everything to her.
Good.
Yeah, I just do. Yeah.
All right, so that's the wisdom. Just say it. And parenting. What's Bas' wisdom on being a father?
I don't think I'm the greatest father because I'm a sissy. And
You're a sissy.
Yeah, believe it or not, my girls just wrap me around their fingers. And it's very easy for them to get something
the syringe eye-poking champion is
Yeah.
wrapped around the fingers of his daughters?
Yeah, it really is. And sometimes I'm that guy, and I wish that I would have done that. For instance, if something needs to be fixed, I fix it. Instead of them saying, here, figure it out, fix it yourself. That's what I should have done as a good father.
Yeah.
But what I do, I want to be the good father helping them, and I grab it out of their hands and I'll fix it. Now they don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
That is my biggest mistake. If I regret, if I could go back in time, that's something I would attack. Force them to do a sport or force them to do something in school that other side.
Do you think that's happening in a lot of, do you see that with a lot of families today, that kids are a little more unable to do stuff on their own than they were?
But it is, because we don't want to take responsibility. I was a big offender of that. It's easier to say, hey, okay, do it, than to say no. There you go again. You see? It's hard to say no to certain things. It's going to help your kid. You know, there's an example that, you know, if you, kids want chocolate milk all day long, and you give it to him. As a good parent, you would never do that. He's going to die if you give him chocolate milk all day long. You see what I mean? So sometimes saying no to a kid at moments like that is a very important rule to have. But we don't, because they say, oh, they cry, give him a chocolate milk, he's good. And then they stop crying. You know, I wish that I would have. And listen, my kids are freaking saints. I mean, they're great. They're really very well measured. They will mannered. They will never bully. You know, no, they're sweethearts. They're super sweethearts. But you know, I would wish that I would have been a little tougher on them.
Tougher. Well, that's interesting coming from a UFC champion.
Yeah.
I also just thought you would be the most terrifying father-in-law to have.
That's what everybody thinks.
Yeah,
it's
you
so funny.
come home and it's like, meet my dad, and you're like, she'll be home very early.
They know before they come in, because in school, I mean, I gotta have a gym here. Yeah, so they're in the same town. Everybody knows immediately. Bas Rutten. This is not the second Bas Rutten.
So would you have a future son-in-law come train with you?
Oh, I do. I already have. You know, I've I don't know if it's a future son-in-law, but he and his and my daughter, they come to the gym. I take private classes for them because I want them to be in shape, and I want a woman, especially. You know, for a woman, if you're a parent, you should force your daughters on jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because the rape position, laying on your back, somebody between your leg, in submission fighting. That's a really good position. I can armbar you, choke you. I can do a lot of things from me being on the bottom. You see, that's a big power to have. I don't know how to sweep you, you know, so you do this.
You're saying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a great self-defense for...
Oh, very good. And, you know, and also for kids. You want to put your kid in there because the combinations are endless. The mechanics that you need and the paths and the creation that you... being creative that you need for that sport, it's really good for the mind. It's just for school, for in general, for everything. You're training your mind because it's all about combinations and setups.
Yeah. What about average guy on the street? If they were going to get started with martial arts, what would you recommend? There's so many you've been proficient in. What's one that you're like, this is great exercise, good self-defense? Where should we get started?
Thankfully, I can say now, you know, just do mixed martial arts. I'll give you an example why. If I fight Mike Tyson, very scary guy. There's no way I'm going to box with him. I will shoot him. I'll take him down as fast as I can. That's what I mean with the shoot. Not shoot, but shoot. I'll take him down and be on top because he can't box if he lays on his back. Right? Now I'm in control. That's Mike Tyson. So if I told somebody, hey, just be a really good boxer. Yeah, but what if you find just a wrestler from high school? You be a really good boxer, whoop, you're on your back.
Right.
By boxing, now the guy's on top and he can start hitting you. Okay, so maybe I should be a wrestler. Yeah, but there could be another wrestler too who has really good hands. You know, so who can stop your takedown and then can knock you out. Or you're a wrestler, a really good wrestler with really good ground skills, because then you can take a person down anytime you want and submit him. So if I have to choose, there always need to be two. wrestling is the glue, I always say, that holds mixed martial arts together. You're either a really good wrestler and a good striker, or a really good wrestler and a really good submission guy. If you both, I would preferably do striking because it's street fighting. You know, if it's a group and you go to the ground, well, people can kick your head in while you're on the ground. Friends of his, you have to watch out for that. Standing, at least you can move around. So really good boxing, but you need wrestling skills in order to stop a takedown from a good wrestler who's submission skills.
Wow. Okay. We're gonna wrap up here. Is there anything you would we need to plug or talk about before we close up shop here?
No.
Any story you're like dying to tell that we didn't get?
Yeah, but there's so many crazy stories. Some stories are just a little bit too crazy. If I go back in time, no, I'm just treat everybody with respect. That's always my message out there. You know, so that we all say it, right? Treat them like you would treat yourself. You know, but we don't do it. It's really what we don't do. And if you simply would live by that rule, I think the world will be a much better place. Stop judging. You know, DJ. That's a lot I said to myself. Don't judge. If I would think a thing, I go DJ or have a rubber band. That's how I stop profanity. But with a rubber band, you can also stop. Hey, this is a nice one too, by the way. This is family. Did you see those already?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Forget about me. I love you. That's the Jesus approach. It's not about me. I love you. Let's work on you. You see, I like things like that. This is also really good for when you say a bad word to hit your wrist
wow,
one time.
That hurt hearing that. Jeez.
Then, you know, it helps. Well, this one actually, it sounds a lot. It doesn't really hurt.
Oh,
I think the thinner one's on the other side.
It's all facade. All right. Well, like all good camping trips, it's come to an end. I would love to actually go camping with you again. I just fear for a bear. It would dare attack me and Bas Rutten.
Yeah, that's. I got nothing on that thing.
I know. I'll try and shout it away, but you could defend it. Bas, thank you so much for your stories, and I hope you'll come back later and we can hear even more stories from the ring and from your time as a bouncer. I'm walking away with I'm processing everything you said, and oh my gosh, like I'm still trying to get past putting a syringe in there. Yeah. I guess that's what you're talking with Matthew. It's funny that was the verse you remembered, is take the plank out of your own eye. I wonder if there's a translation is remove the syringe from your own eye before you give it to your brother.
Oh yeah, because I was that guy at the time. I was exactly that guy. So yeah, things like that. Once I started realizing all these verses have such a deep meanings, you know, he would say something, Jesus would say something, and that's it. He doesn't need more than 5 words to completely dominate that whole conversation. You go like, wow, how can you do that? And that's what people should see. Right now, we all try to cover everything. No, just those 5 simple words, whatever they are or whatever short statement it makes. If it's truth, you always win. Truth will set you free, right? That actually comes from the Bible as well.
Amen. Well, folks, thanks for camping with us. We'll be back soon. Stay safe out there. Thanks for joining us, folks. If you want to help us out, and we're confident you do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube channel. And if you ever feel like just listening to these, you can check us out on all major podcast streaming platforms by just searching for I Went Camping With. And there, you should also subscribe. Thanks again, folks.